Right.
That's when I
Now we're streaming live. It says that.
does it say it already? I'm not seeing it on my end yet. So
I
let
got
me
a
just,
secret message. It says now streaming live on Facebook.
alrighty. Oh, you're right. Facebook people, I love this lady and you will too. Just look at her. Oh my gosh. You think she's amazing sitting there in her living room. You should see her on stages. This lady has a cult following. Yes, she goes all over California. God knows where else. We got to find out. I met her at Aces the week I started, and I got to be in an improv class with her and watch her do her magic on stage. She just takes over a stage like so calm and confidently. And well, she wants me to just say that she is the most, the oldest and most unemployed attorney and comedian I know. So let me just say that. Let's
Yes.
talk to her and find out all about her life up to this point and past the pandemic. Welcome to Comic Spot, the one, the only, Anita Milner. Hi, Anita.
Hi there. Thank you. Thank you for
I,
having me. This is very exciting.
I
And
feel like I'm having coffee with you at a restaurant right now. That's how it feels.
oh, that's great. That's good. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just so nice to see anybody in this
yes,
isolation. You
it
know.
is. Used to be when we went to our rooms, it was because we did something bad. This has been an adjustment.
Oh, I know. It's it, it's nothing. I've seen nothing like it. And I've been through several plagues. We had polio scares and all the flu scares we've had in the past years, but nothing ever like this. Nothing like
Nothing
this.
ever like this. This is crazy.
It's
You were telling me before we went live, and I want people to know there's some things on the wall. Would you mind explaining who the
oh
people are on your wall? Because I'm sure they're looking at it going, who are those people?
oh okay. Well, the one is my grandfather, and the name is Milburn Sabins. Does that sound 200 years old? That's my
It does.
and he's the one who brought this weakness for kidney disease into the family, so we say his name with a curse because he's passed that down to all of us. And then the needlework is called Battenberg lace, and it was done by one of my ancestors. And women used to spend a lot of time doing needlework, and during the pandemic women are taking up needlework and crafts and cooking again, just to fill in the time. I think it's
Yes.
kind of interesting. But
You know,
I'm, I'm
I'm only half Jewish, but I figured out
which
how to keep a kosher kitchen. I don't know which half.
okay, so
You know how I keep a kosher kitchen?
how do you keep a kosher kitchen?
Stay the blank out.
That sounds good to me. That sounds good to me.
It's the only way. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and
I,
I don't cook. I don't cook, but our local community is giving senior citizens 7 TV dinners a week. It's a wonderful gesture, and it keeps me from malnutrition because I wouldn't be eating correctly if they weren't feeding us. It's not we need the money. It's just that a lot of us aren't able to cook and eat correctly. So that's nice
yes.
to have that.
And you got to go out and forage for food, and that's dangerous.
Well, yeah, and Halloween, there was a dead sparrowhawk in my backyard. I thought, well, no, I can't eat that, so we threw that away. That that was stretching a little bit. Did you have
His
trick?
eye was his eye is on that sparrow.
Yes, right. Did you have trick or treat? At
I didn't. I went to Denny's and they gave me some undercooked bacon
I saw
and
that, and no utensils, and no utensils.
none. And so I decided that I would go there late at night on Halloween and not trick or treat, just go straight for trichinosis.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Thank you.
No,
That's what they're good for. So
I had 61 trick-or-treaters come to my house, and it was just like the good old days. It was, I handed
that's
things out
amazing.
with barbecue tongs so that, we wouldn't touch. And I had my mask, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
That's so cool. Oh my gosh. What's the funniest thing you've seen someone dress up by
Oh,
in your life?
in my life, I don't know what would be the funniest, but the cutest,
Mhm.
2 or 3 years in a row, they had little toddlers dressed up like old people pushing walkers that they had made out of a PCV pipe. Cutest thing I ever saw. And the kids were, I mean, they needed the walkers. They were so little, but it was cute. We liked that. And we had a
That's so
very, very sexy poison ivy come by, and my brother was helping me hand out stuff. He enjoyed looking at her, but so you get some pretty sexy little costumes there sometimes. But it was a lot of fun
yes.
seeing the kids. You miss that interaction, and the kids are all sweet.
Yes.
Nobody's horrible. They're all sweet and say thank you and please, and it was fun.
So adorable. One
Yeah.
time I was I was a banker my career, and one time at Washington Mutual and what?
I wondered what you had done before BC, before comedy. Yes.
And I was in the headquarters at Washington Mutual in Seattle, and I was a corporate trainer. And I went to lunch on Halloween, and there were these two mice with canes, two blind mice.
Oh, two blind mice.
And all day they were going around looking for the third one, just tapping their cane.
That's cute. That's cute.
It was my favorite. I still laugh about it.
Oh, some of them are just hilarious. I was
Yes.
my favorite joke about Halloween was from another comic, and he said that back in my day or my daughter's day, you worried about razor blades in apples. That was a big thing that was going around, that you worried to get razor blades in apples, and my kids wouldn't have eaten an apple for anything anyway on Halloween. But this comic said that he tried putting the razor blades in apples, but it didn't work. The kids were too smart. All of them noticed the little plastic handle. And I like that. So
That's a good one. Oh my gosh. One time I knocked on a door when I was a little kid, and I remember the door opened automatically, like it had to be strung somewhere for when you knock, it just opened. It
oh,
was eerie. And this little, I want to call her a little old lady. I don't know what. She was probably 20 years older than me, and that felt old. And this little lady came sliding down a banister in a white sheet. And
no
I
kidding.
screamed, I didn't want any of her candy.
And it was actually
There
her,
if it was.
not a decoy. It was that lady. Oh my gosh. Gosh.
I was like, this is too much. Oh my
Well,
god.
I have a skeleton, of course, a plastic skeleton, but I always have my plastic skeleton out. And what's interesting to me is that it doesn't scare kids, doesn't scare anybody. That they barely look at it, and it's a life-sized skeleton. But kids are so tough anymore. They're just inured to any kind of scary thing.
That's hilarious that it doesn't scare them.
No, it doesn't. Once in a while, one of them will want to shake hands with it. And we had the mask, of course, on the skull so that it wouldn't get COVID or give COVID. I'm not sure how that works.
Remember that song where the knee bone's connected to the hip bone?
Yes,
That's how I learned parts of a body from a skeleton.
Yeah. Well,
Then they wonder why we become anorexic.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, just the weight, just about right. But it is fun. I really like Halloween, and I don't have to
Me
cook.
too.
So that's good.
Yes. 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 So talk to me about your early life being funny and how you didn't get on stage until later in life and all that you did in the middle. I want to hear this amazing story where I can actually hear it and people can see it.
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know what made me try. I know one thing that made me try comedy. I went to law school in my late 40s, and that is absolutely the most stressful thing in the world you could do is go to law school. Donald Trump's son said this week that anybody can go to law school, and I thought, that me. I mean, law school was tough. You couldn't make me do it again. But
Wow.
during law school, we went during the break. We went on a cruise, and they had a talent show. And for some reason, I decided to try comedy. I'd never done it before, and my daughter helped me with my set. Must give her credit. And it was wonderful. It was exhilarating, and I was just hooked. So during the rest of law school, I would go to the open mic nights at the La Jolla Comedy Store. That's where I got my experience, and it was. And you know yourself, that's what you need, is to just go to open mic nights, and do a little bit at a time, and just build your act. But I think it saved my sanity because law school was just really, really stressful. And uh, I enjoy watching Judge Judy because some of the things she's saying there, I think, oh God, now that makes sense. It didn't in law school, but now it makes sense. And so then I just started doing a little, you get booked after a while, and a group of us formed a little troupe called Ladies of the Evening. And we would get bookings at various places in San Diego County. And so that gave us a good start. And just, you just add to your set. And I see you're working on your material all the time. I admire you because you are a working comic. You are a working comic. Yes.
Thank you. You got to get input from a lot of people. You got to be open to input,
Yes. And people, what slays me is the people who will come up to me afterward and they'll tell me that I can use this joke. And you've had it happen, Linda. And it's some old street joke that you would never, ever tell yourself. But they give you that joke, which wasn't theirs, and tell you that you can use that. And you're always very nice and say thank you. But see, it happens to all of us. But
yes.
a lot of times people will give you a punchline or a different punchline, and I will use it, and it's great. Monica Piper. I don't even know if anyone remembers Monica Piper. Do you?
Yes.
But she gave me a line. We were in a show together. She was a headliner, of course. We were in a show together, and she gave me a line, and I've used it ever since. And it goes every time. I wrote her, and thanked her, and she didn't charge me. So,
wow.
But a lot of times, people from the audience will give you a good line. And
that's wonderful. Have you been out grocery shopping or whatever? And
I do go out. Yeah, go ahead. I didn't let you finish your question.
That's okay.
I'm good at that. I'm good.
And I am too. When you go out in public and somebody finds out you're a comedian.
Oh, say something funny.
Yeah.
They'll say something funny.
And then you say something funny and you get no reaction. It's like, stay home.
Yeah, right. Don't come out here again. Don't come. Yeah, and it's especially embarrassing when you're buying booze. So that's she's not drunk enough to be funny. But it is fun, and it is fun even locally. I'm here in Riverside County, but it is fun to have somebody recognize you. And it's not, nobody ever asks for an autograph, but or they'll say you look vaguely familiar. But it is fun to have people recognize you once in a while. It's nice.
Yes. So, like, what's the craziest thing that it's ever happened when people have recognized you or said something after you got off stage?
I don't, oh, I can't think of anything. I'll think of something once we're on,
Sure.
but I can't think of anything.
The craziest thing
Yeah,
people,
yours.
this is what drives me nuts, Anita, is that, I look so sweet and so nice, and
Yes, I know you're not though, but go ahead.
and I get done busting everything to try to get people to laugh and pouring my heart and my life on the stage, in 5 minutes. And they'll say, "You're so sweet," or "You're so beautiful," or "I love your dress." I'm like, stop it,
Yeah, I'd as well say you're not funny, but I'm giving you a compliment.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is tough when the set doesn't go as well as you would like, because then you have to walk back down into the audience and
Yeah.
avert your eyes while they're averting theirs.
I've had plenty of that. Yes. What's the biggest, craziest thing you ever experienced that was a little bit, could have been dangerous? Like I remember, I remember being up on stage my first time at Aces in a show, my first month in comedy, and there was a heckler, and everybody couldn't stand the heckler.
Yes.
What kind of crazy things have you seen that have?
I don't know. But back to heckling, I think as older comics and women, I don't have a problem with hecklers. I think that they know the audience would turn on them because I am this sweet little old lady, and and so I really don't know how I would handle heckling. But and do you really have problems with hecklers? I would imagine you don't.
I did my first 5.5 years. Now I'm into my 6th year and I don't get it anymore. But I would get on stage and I would be too scared to do my act. So I would tell some jokes to warm myself up, and they read it. I'd be like, blah, 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 blah. Okay, now for my act.
Oh,
And I got heckled every time I did the pre-jokes,
yeah.
because they knew it. They could feel that I wasn't really doing my set. I was feeling them out, warming up, and that left me vulnerable. So I quit doing that.
It does, and I know people think I seem relaxed on stage, but I'm nervous, and I have to have a half a glass of wine before I go up on stage, but just to relax me a little bit. But but you know the feeling when you're there and you hit the groove, and then you
Yes.
have them, and then you really can't do anything wrong. It is the most better than sex, if I could recall. But when you hit the groove and the audience is with you, it's a wonderful feeling. It's just euphoric, euphoric.
It is.
Want to
I
laugh?
like the way you said that you can't do anything wrong.
Yeah, yeah. Even your bad stuff sometimes goes well, but and and I and you have certain bits that people seem to remember. And I have a bit about my husband and his snoring. And when people have seen me before, that's what they always remember is the way I'm going to kill my husband uh, to stop the snoring. And it's kind of nice to have, they actually remembered your act and they weren't just saying something to be nice.
Yes, I love that. That's what they say you should try to do, is be memorable. And that's the biggest compliment ever, that they remember something specific.
And you're right. And that bit is, I do have some lines from other people, but that little bit there is all my own. And so that makes it even doubly more satisfying.
Yes. What's the funniest thing from your life that you have not yet said on stage?
Oh, golly. I can't. It probably had to do with sex because I don't talk about that else. I, I can't remember. Well, there are things that happen in my family that are funny, but I know it would embarrass family members to tell it, even though it's funny and we all still laugh about it. they wouldn't want me to talk about it on stage. And
Yeah.
I made a mistake one time. I spoke at the Elks Club, and my husband was sitting at the head table with me, and I did the bit about the snoring. And I realized afterward that was embarrassing to him. And usually my husband wasn't in the audience, but I never again talked about my husband if my husband was present. I just, I always felt badly about that. Felt bad or badly? I don't know which is the right word.
Badly.
Okay.
Badly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. You know, there's things in my family. Okay, so I have a sister who turned out way better than me. Like she never had a rough day.
I heard that. Yeah. But
And
you have a twin brother though.
yes.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead about your sister.
Well, you know, we recall different things from our childhood very differently. She
Yeah.
became a success early on because she didn't care about the crap and remember it like I did. I held on to it like it was precious and it messed with me. And so when I tell things on stage, if she were in the audience, she would be shaking her head that didn't happen or she doesn't remember it, you know?
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, and sometimes laughing at something, finding something to laugh about with an incident is the only way you can handle it. Because some things happen to us are embarrassing, and just you really don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm so scared someone will see me naked someday, and that would be really embarrassing. But
You know, like so one time when I was at Washington Mutual, I went walking in the snow on my lunch hour, and you have to walk down the streets like Fifth Avenue, you walk down to Fourth and you walk down to Third. And I was walking down one of the streets and I slipped and fell on my tuchus.
oh,
When I fell, my legs went out like this,
oh,
and they were right in front of two of my coworkers, and I was in a dress.
oh, yeah. And sometimes when you think about it later, your whole body gets hot. You just are so embarrassed.
Yeah. How do you make that funny? Because like not enough time's ever gonna pass for me to make it really funny and to make it funny for others. It's like
You've
it was
got it.
embarrassing and that's it.
Not enough time is ever going to pass. You're absolutely right. Well, Joni Rivers, she liked that off-color stuff, so she'd probably make something funny out of it.
Yes.
I
Yes.
want to know, who are your favorite comics, Linda?
I have two top female comics. The ones who were here and they've passed on, I don't count them in this because the women that went on are in a classification way beyond, you know, because like so much they suffered through
Yes.
on top of their comedy legends. But the ones that are still alive, I'd have to say Rita Rudner
Yes. Yes.
and Wendy Liebman.
Yes. You're right, Wendy. Now, see, in my mind, Monica Piper is in with those two. She's not as active anymore, but she's very funny, and she's done a lot of writing other than just doing stand up. But you're right. Now,
I'll look up Monica Piper today and watch some of her stuff online. That'll be interesting.
her catchphrase was "Only you, Monica." Only you, Monica. And I think when I met her, I think she was pleased. I remembered that was because all these things would happen, and she was real little. She was tiny, too. But
Did she pass away?
Monica, no. I still,
Oh, good.
I still email her once in a while. But I'm terribly proud of Taylor Tomlinson because she's from Riverside County, and she is just going to do nothing but go up and up and up. She's amazing. She's an amazing comic. I think she's already had a TV special, and she was on last.
She's had that. Yes.
Yeah,
she's so good with her jokes and delivery and timing, and
amazing.
She knows how to angle her face and switch things up, and she's brilliant. She's everything all wrapped into, she's a total package.
She absolutely is. She absolutely is. I just, we are proud of her here because, you know, she's one of our own. And
Yes. And she's staying out of the fray of Hollywood.
I guess she is. She's had, did you happen to see her sitcom with Fred Savage?
No.
She was co-starred with Fred Savage was the star. I can't remember the name of it. But it was good. I watched every episode, and she's not only a good actress, she's a good comic. She's a good actress too. She can handle it. So anyway,
I love watching her because it's like a master class in the fine tuning of skills.
Yes, and when I first saw her, I mean, she was probably 15, and she was already. We all knew she was going to go somewhere, but anyway, that's
wow. Yeah, I remember when a bunch of us got done doing stuff at Aces, and we hopped in cars and went down to the Ponderosa in Sun City, and she was with the group, and she got up on stage, and I was like, wow.
you just see it. I mean, it was so obvious, and
Yeah.
but anyway, I guess who else? Who's your?
Do you know Craig? Remember when Craig Shoemaker came to Aces a few
Yes.
times?
Oh yes. What's his catch?
Love Doctor.
Love Doctor. Yes, yes. Yeah, right. Aces. Golly, nobody else knows about it anymore. But Aces was absolutely a wonderful comedy store. All of us were so sad when it closed, but it was Rocky Osborne. Rocky Osborne gave us all venues and paid us, treated us fairly, and it was a great comedy store. Just really was.
Yes. Yes. I'd love to see him reopen a club someday because
He tried.
he's at
He tried in downtown Temecula, Old Town Temecula, but there were so many things wrong structurally with the building. He just had a terrible. It was a bad situation. It just, but he did very well. I mean, he had packed houses all the time. Rocky knows how to do it.
Yeah.
Rocky knows how to do it.
Yes. He's one of those magnets. He just draws people.
Yeah, well, he's very smart. He's brilliant. Yeah, we don't. If he opened another comedy store, every comic in this county would be at his beck and call. We would be excited to work for him.
Yes, yes. I loved going to Aces because I remember, like when I walked in there, he made me feel like I was at home, even though it was my first week.
That's how Rocky is. But it had everything. It just had everything. I don't think there was any comedy store in the county. I can't think of one in the county that was anything like that.
No,
we're burying a dead horse here.
I know.
Horse.
But it was the good old days, and that wasn't that long ago. And maybe
no, it wasn't. It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, because that 2014. What?
He's still in the county. I mean, he still lives here. Yeah.
He let me interview him one day. He was sitting in his van, and I got to ask him all kinds of questions, and it was nice because one of the last things he told me was, I've looked at your posts on Facebook and only half of them are funny.
Thank you, Rocky. Oh gosh.
Oh my gosh. I was so embarrassed. I went back to try to make more of them funny. You got to hear that stuff. It might be painful, but you got to hear it.
Oh yeah. A lot of it's painful, but when you have a good set, it's just, I mean, you just float home. I don't even need the car. I could just float home afterward. And
so where were you born and raised, and what made you funny to begin with? Good parents?
My family is all very witty. when our family gets together, there's just lots of laughter. There really is lots of laughter. And my daughter's married. I have two daughters. My daughter's married witty, smart people. And of course, my four grandchildren are just funny and smart. And, you know, I could go on for a while about that. And I have four great grandchildren, and they show all the signs of being funny and witty. But it's, I don't know, maybe like attracts like, I don't know. We don't have any other comics in the family. Or my bloodline, but I was born in Elgin, Illinois, which is fairly near Chicago, and but my parents were in Elgin because of the Depression. I was born in 36, so the Depression was still in full force, and you went where the work was, you went where the jobs were. And my whole family is from Clay County, Missouri, and or Missouri, as I like to say. But I have family still in that part of Missouri, and we all keep, and they're all funny too. We all keep in touch. We don't get to see each other much, but we keep in touch. Family is very important, and you know it. I mean, you know how important family is.
Yes.
What does your twin brother do?
My twin brother has not, he doesn't work, and I'm not sure what that's about, but I think he had some kind of injury that I'm not aware of.
Okay.
But when he was working, he worked on the pit crew for the raceway in Portland.
No kidding.
Yeah, he's like a mechanic, and changes tires really
changes those tires in 30 seconds. Oh, for heavens. Well, and of course, you say he's your age, Linda. He doesn't really need to be working. We don't need to be working at this age, but keeps
That's true. None of us do at this age.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, we have jokes that we give each other about being a twin to each other. And he started it. He told me that I am him in drag.
Oh, that's good. Well, at least he didn't ask. That people don't ask if you're identical. You know, that's kind of nice, I'm sure.
Yes. I told him.
My dad was an identical twin.
Really?
Yes, and the brother died at 41, which was, you are part of each other. It was just devastating. And but twins are different. Did you and your brother have your own language? My dad did with his brother.
We didn't have our own language. He was raised by my dad, and I was raised by my mom, and that kind of put a lot of discord between us because my parents.
That's an unusual punishment.
Thank you.
That's not fair. No, Dad. The twins are special. Twins are just special.
When we get together now, we can get beyond all that finally. And he told me last time I saw him, and he sees I'm doing comedy and I'm making strides in comedy. And he said, I remember when you were 2 years old cracking us up at the table, so he's giving me compliments. So that's nice.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember being particularly funny anytime. I was witty, but I don't remember being just funny and holding crowds enthralled. I just don't remember anything like that at all. But stand up is rewarding and punishing and terrifying, and not as bad as law school was. But
if you can do law school, you can do comedy.
A lot of people always think lawyers as being boring and dull, but there were some of the funniest people in law school. And when I started practicing law, the highlights of my life would be when several of the lawyers would all go to lunch together, and the stories they would tell. I mean, it was just so much fun. They had some really, really funny stories, and some which couldn't be repeated. But lawyers are, are funny people. They really are
Yeah.
funny.
One night when I was in Portland at Harvey's Comedy Club, they invited lawyers to come up and go on stage for the first time. And I saw what you're talking about.
Oh my
They were
God.
just a riot.
And something you reminded me when I first started doing comedy up in LA, one of the comedy stores had a once a year they would have just lawyers do routines, and they were hilarious. And I sat across from a man who was writing down jokes to steal. He made no bones about it. He was writing down jokes to steal, and I'm sure that the one thing about people stealing your jokes, nobody ever tells it as well as you do, because
That's
it's
right.
a joke, and just has to be your joke.
It, like when I first started out, and I'm a huge fan of Rita and Wendy, I would go to their clips and then try to say it in my living room, because I didn't know what else to do.
Well, and
But I would never go on stage if you don't have that filter inside of you that's thievery, like how can you not know you're stealing? But I did it at first just to get the rhythm of what they were saying. And then when I said their stuff, then things came up for me to say. But I would never take something somebody said and use it publicly. Never.
I've seen it happen though. They think not very often, but people just stand up and do someone else's routine, and it's just bizarre. When was your very first? What was your very first stand-up comic performance?
It was at Aces.
It was at Aces.
At
I knew you said you just started, and it was at Aces.
March. It was at Aces the day that my daughter and I parted ways, March 13, 2014. And I didn't really want to go. Rocky let me come in and learn, and he got me up on stage that week.
Is that right? Now, did you ever work for Rocky as you didn't work as a waitress there or anything?
No.
Straight up comedy. Oh, yeah. And how many minutes did you do? Did you do 5 or at the La Jolla Comedy Store you only did 3 minutes?
Yeah, 3 minutes, and it felt like eternity. And I remember some comedians sitting up front, and when my stuff was wordplay and puns, and I didn't know the first thing about comedy, and I was reading it because I had a brain injury, and now I'm beyond looking at notes, but I was a mess. I was horrible. And I heard 2 comics in the front row in the middle of my 3 minutes say, "I've heard that joke before." And I'm like, I didn't know it was out there, I guess I'm a genius.
That's called parallel thinking. Parallel thinking. You come up with the same joke. I have a joke that I came up with that a well-known comic does. And I don't think she stole it from me. She probably would think I stole it from her, but you do come up with the same jokes. You asked me about horrible moments or something. I just remember the worst at the open mic nights when I was still doing open mics at La Jolla Comedy Store. And I was the last one up. So it's a terrible. They did the open mic after the regular set. So it was the last one up. There were 2 people in the audience. I didn't know this because you can't see who's in the audience. There were 2 people in the audience, and I did my set, and I heard one laugh from a man, and that's all I heard during the whole 3 minutes. And then when the lights went up, there was one person in the audience. It was a woman, and they told me later those 2 people came in. The man laughed once and left, and the woman was a street person who had come in she left a shopping cart outside and had just come in to get warm. I thought, this will be the worst that things ever get. And it was. I don't think I've ever had a worse performance in my life, but one laugh and the street lady. The street person did stay for the whole act. I think that was kind of nice.
Wow.
But just degradation. That's what it felt like, was degradation.
I remember my mom had passed away and she lived at a Jewish senior center in Portland, Oregon. So after she passed, I wanted to go do comedy there. So I signed up to go weekly to the Robeson home, Schnitzer Manor in Portland.
Schnitzer,
And
is that the real name? That's a real name? All right. Okay.
so I went there every week and they put you in the room where they have the high holy stuff. I never learned what it is. You know, this room that's intimidating to me. I have to go do comedy for the seniors that knew my mother who passed away. So I'm in there and they make you do an hour. I mean, you can't do 5 minutes and run. They want.
You are kidding. 1 hour comedy?
And I was like 1 year into comedy, right?
Oh my gosh. I can't
So
do
I
it.
brought in the curtain rod and did Lucille Ball and tried to figure out what I was doing. And I sang and I tap danced and, and I did charades and I did questions and answers with them. I did a Carol Burnett variety hour all by myself. And this one lady said, she said, keep your day job. And I was like, oh. So now I have a joke about that, but I get all done with this whole Vakakta thing I did. And believe me, I knew it wasn't good, but they expected an hour.
But you did it.
Yeah. And so every week a different show. And so this lady comes up to me. She was like 92-year-old lady with a laptop. And she comes up to me with this laptop and I'm like, hi. And she says, this is a video of my husband. And I said, oh, I'm sorry he passed away. And she said, he didn't pass away. He's in the room deleting emails. And this was like around the time of Hillary. And so I just let the comment go. I was better not to reply. She says, look at the video. This is my husband on Johnny Carson.
Oh my God.
He worked for Johnny Carson.
Oh.
And his last night, here, let me push this button. And Johnny is saying goodbye to this guy. And he's saying that he's going to come to Hillsboro, Oregon to live, which is where the place is. And I said, well, when do I get to meet your husband? So the next month that I came, I go early and I was so bad at comedy. I wanted to bribe people. I would do anything to get them to come to the shows, hope they'd like me so they'd laugh. You know how you do when you're not good yet. And so I paid $10 to sit and have lunch with them. And then they'd like me and they'd come to my show and they'd laugh because they liked me. That's what I did. And so this man comes up to me and he goes, I'm the guy in the video. And I go, that's so cool. And he was going to come and watch me perform. And with Johnny Carson's for 15 years, he was lighting. He just did lights, When I got done, he came up to me and he said, I've seen a lot of comedians and you're really good.
Oh my gosh.
That made me feel good,
Oh I don't see how you did it. I thought you just did the hour one time. How many times did you do that? A bunch?
7 times.
Oh my Lord, Linda. Oh my, I would have never done it the second time if I had toughed it out the first time. You are
One
amazing.
time they wanted me doing comedy at the VA hospital in Vancouver for people who are coming out of surgery. But then they filled the room with all of the brass, all of the mucky mucks sitting there, making sure you don't say one thing wrong. And 5 weeks in a row, I did that. And not once did these people laugh. And I kept going home and coming back the next week with an entirely different style of comedy. I'd call up the booker. They didn't like my style. Try something else. Okay, what do you think? What do you think I ought to try? What did you do? Puns? Okay, try storytelling. All right, that didn't work. I just kept changing what I was doing.
Now, were you getting paid? Were you getting?
No, I
Oh,
was volunteering.
I just assumed you didn't. Oh my God.
No, I wasn't good enough to get paid.
No, golly. And you know what? And I've performed a lot of times at these residential places for let me try to.
Sure, take your time.
Okay. Just well, I thought. Wait, no, I thought I don't know how to turn my phone off. Apparently don't.
It's important.
What always bothered me was before the show starts, they wheel in all the people who are completely out of it and they put them up at the front. So your whole front row is people who don't know what you are, who you are, or where you are. And that bothers me, I think, more than anything, because you want to be speaking to row 2 and behind, but all you can see is row 1 where they're just completely out of it. Gosh.
Yes. And then if they have an emergency, everybody sees it.
Oh yeah. You're right. The most recent show I did was at I think it's a care facility, and half of the people were in wheelchairs. It went really well because they all had family members who laughed at us. But during my set, this one man would get up and walk across the stage, and someone would come and get him and guide him back and sit him down. And then in a couple of minutes, he'd get up and walk across the stage. And he was a heck of a lot funnier than I was. But he did that several times, and they just had to come keep him calm and set him down again. But he didn't come up afterward and tell me how great I was. So
oh, I'm sure he thought it.
I don't think he thought at all. I don't know where he was going, but anyway, the audience is sometimes a lot funnier than we are.
Yes, I think it's so rewarding to do comedy. Like, have you gone to like battered women's shelters and different places?
No, just one time years ago, and I don't really. I remember doing it, but I don't remember. I don't remember if there were a lot of bruised women around or not, but it was not recently.
I made the mistake of going to a battered women's shelter and doing a whole bit about post-traumatic stress from military sexual trauma. What was I thinking, Anita?
Oh, we aren't. Sometimes we aren't, but we have a lot of fun, and just doing law can be kind of insular, just sort of a one-way thing. The comedy just is such a break from what we do with the rest of our lives. And I think at our age, a lot of people our age do not have a lot going on in their lives. It's not that they're unhappy, but it's just repetitive, the same thing all the time. And comedy is a great diversion for us.
It is. And it's such a nice diversion for people to get away from their problems and listen to somebody and their mundane problem with their next door neighbor for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour.
No, you're right. And it's, you say mundane. It surprises me the people who come and see me regularly, when they know my set, they could get up there and deliver it for me if I didn't show. But it's and I think you probably have it too, that you have not followers, but just people that they don't mind hearing it again. And I think sometimes oh, I'm telling the same things, but I get the feeling that if I didn't tell the same things afterward, they would say, you didn't tell about your husband snoring. So
that's when you've arrived.
Yeah.
That's
or maybe not. I don't know.
Have you ever gotten comedy advice that wasn't worth the powder to blow it up?
Well, mainly telling me dumb old jokes that I have to smile and look nice about, but look grateful. Yeah, people, and I can't remember. People do give you advice that's worthless, and you just kind of file it away. You don't pay attention to it. But I will tell you what I do. And I, a substantial part of my act is about my 17-year-old grandson who lives with me. Now, my
Wow.
17-year-old grandson has been living with me 7 or 8 years, and he's never aged. But when I go to in that bit, I use current phrases, and before I do the set, I will call my grandsons, like my three of my grandchildren. I call and I'll say, are they still using this phrase, or is there something new? And it's very helpful because they know what's being said, and sometimes they'll give me some really good advice, and it does keep the terminology good, because what's something I've had to give up saying is let's see. Oh, I can't remember anything right now, but I think meh. I think they're not using meh anymore. MEH. That I think I've had to give up using that, and a couple of other phrases, but and some of them are a little off color, but that's okay. But that has helped a lot, having the grandchildren give me actual input, and that's been nice, and it gives me a chance to communicate with my grandchildren.
Yes,
Sure.
yes, absolutely.
So
I like to do a certain bit on how I want to be hip and woke and dope. And
yes, I use that's the words I use too, because I can remember them. And but I'm sure I use words that are out of date, but
it's ever changing. Words are ever changing.
and some of that stuff I can't remember them long enough to write them down, but and I'm sure some of this is regional. That maybe in California, if I were in Arkansas, those words wouldn't be recognized because they're regional.
Yes.
But anyway, it's just fun. We don't have to be perfect. We're practicing comics. We're practicing.
Yes.
So that's what we do.
You know how a lot of people will start their sets off and they'll say, I know what you're thinking.
Oh, yeah.
I like going out into public and asking people, when you look at me, what do you think? What do you think I look like? What did you think when you first saw me? I'm working on my comedy, and I've gotten some of the best stuff from other people.
Yeah, and you look great. I mean, you really do, and I love your new smile.
Thank you.
I'm so glad. I know you felt a lot better after you got that.
Yes, it was horrible, but my whole life I had lousy teeth so bad I joined the army to get them fixed. What?
I wondered if that was what happened. No, I never thought that you had an ugly smile, but I mean, the difference was really, the difference was noticeable, and you seem so much happier.
And I'm taking selfies all the time. I can't believe I said.
Well, you look pretty good all over, Linda. I wouldn't want to stand next to you in a beauty contest. I just couldn't do that. But,
yeah. Thank you. I get all done doing my comedy and somebody will say, you're so beautiful. I'm like, what about the jokes?
yes, I know.
I'm doing a whole bit on how I'm a baby boomer. And so, like now you're going to give me.
You are, aren't you? You are. My older daughter's a baby boomer. Oh my gosh. She's 64. So yeah.
I'm 69.
Yeah, I know how old you are. So go ahead and say about the, I interrupted you again.
Like where, I'm uncomfortable with all of a sudden in the last year or so, blonde hair, beautiful teeth, and a tight tuchus. And
yes.
I'm not used to the compliments. I mean, I need them because I'm a boomer. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a Me Tooer. God bless the Me Too. I need keep the compliments coming. How am I going to get comfortable with them before I kick the bucket if you don't keep telling me them? I'm just uncomfortable with them.
No, you do. Right. Well, I didn't notice the change in your, I always thought you looked fine, and I didn't notice the change in your body, but
Yeah.
the smile and I thought that was very, I could tell that was earth shattering for you, maybe.
Yes, it feels so much better to, I never looked in the mirror until probably the last couple of years.
Is
Never did. Couldn't stand looking in the mirror. Why should I?
Yeah, well, I don't care for it much either, and I never had any work done, so it's too late to start now. I think things would probably just sort of crumble as they were working on me. But anyway,
I like aging the way that your body is supposed to. I mean, we can complain about it, but it's so much nicer to look at people whose face matches their chronological, I mean, that they're not toying with the trajectory of life.
I think you're right. Yeah, there's some people that get too carried away with trying to look younger, but
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. What would you like to say is the biggest thing that you've been able to accomplish in being an attorney and in being a comedian in both areas? What's the biggest thing that you've accomplished?
Well, about being an attorney, all my life, my husband was really a wonderful man, and it's not just because he's dead that in retrospect, but he supported me. It took me years just to get my 4 years college, and then I took another 3 or 4 years to get my master's. And in all this time, I had little jobs. I had little types of jobs. Not until I went to law school, and my dear husband had just shelled out money all these years. When he passed away, I actually became income producing. And all my life, I'd been this parasite that was living off of my husband, and he was fine. He was proud of me, but it was a great feeling of accomplishment at 70 to actually be able to realize I could support myself if I had to. I don't have to, but that I could have made a living at this, and it really was made me feel worth more. But
Yeah.
I'm not saying it well, but it was a good feeling. And as to comedy, just I think just becoming more comfortable around people. People always say the greatest fear is public speaking, and probably it was for me. But now that I'm into comedy, that's not one of my fears. And you know the same thing. You look forward to getting up there and controlling the crowd and making them laugh. You don't like it when they don't laugh, but that is a great accomplishment, is to overcome that fear of speaking in public. So I guess that those were two sneaky questions, Linda.
What would you like to say to newer comics that might watch this? What to avoid, or the biggest lesson you could give
Get on
them?
stage every time that you can. I just cannot believe you were doing those hour sets. My gosh, I see. I would never have done it. I would have, just stabbed myself in the chest and gotten it over with. But I think you have to decide: do you want to become a professional comic and make a living at it, or is it just going to be something that you enjoy and don't make it an all or nothing effort? And with me, uh, I'll never be famous or uh, have my own show or anything like that, but I'm enjoying what I do, and I would miss it. The plague has been tough on comics, because one thing that we all want is the audience response. And when you're on Zoom, you may have a dozen people watching you, but you don't have that audience back and forth, and that rapport with the audience. And it's been tough on comics. Zoom is getting a little easier, but it was it's been a hard time, been a hard time for everybody.
Yes.
Some people are becoming millionaires in this, but I'm certainly not one. But I think you have to make a decision. Is this going to be your whole life, or are you just going to weave it into your life and make it a part of your life and benefit from it? If you're not having a good time, don't do it. Don't do it. So
And they're like, they can, neither answer is wrong. It's okay if you want to do it as a vocation or an avocation.
absolutely, absolutely. And I know. And by the way, we were talking about favorite comics. You probably
Yes.
saw
Who are
her.
yours?
Uh, I wanted to meet my absolute favorite comic, and we met at the La Jolla Comedy Store all the 35 years ago. It was Karen Montowski, and I just envy her. I don't know if I envy her. I'm proud of her. I'm proud of her because she has made a living. She's one that comic is what she is, and she's made a living all these years as a comic. She's not super famous, but she headline anytime she performs, she's headlining. She's never we used to say middler, but now it's feature instead of middler. And I just admire her so much because she is an absolute consummate professional, and she's a clean comic. And a lot of comics sacrifice something, I think, when they decide to go really blue. Do they still say blue for off color? I don't know. I use so many old words, but I admire Taylor Tomlinson and Karen Montowski are the comics, today's comics, that I admire the most. And
Wow.
Karen lives, in LA, because you about have to live up there if you're going to make it up in that area. But I don't know.
Yes.
Well, I dropped that question, whatever it was. I don't know, whatever.
Your favorite comedians?
Oh, yes. And Bob Newhart is still I love Bob, have a crush on Bob Newhart. Bob Newhart, and he's still around, and he's on Big Bang Theory. He used to be on Big Bang Theory as a feature every once in a while. But I love Bob Newhart because he has no gimmicks, no gimmicks. He's just delivers his set, and just it's all done in his voice and his expressions. And he's just absolutely amazing. I really admire Bob Newhart. Let's see, who else do I? And Phyllis Stiller, I liked. We were talking about dead comics. Phyllis Stiller really. There's plenty of women comics before Phyllis Stiller, and you know that. But Phyllis Stiller really made great strides for women comics, and I still admire her. I remember reading when she passed away, her daughter said she died in her sleep at home with a smile on her face, and I thought, that's the way to go. That's the way I hope I go.
Oh, that's a cool story. There's, like, sometimes people will get up on stage and they don't know the history of comedy or the traditions, like holding the mic, how to, how to appreciate your fans, and they don't get what these legends have done before us to pave the way so we can just walk up and grab a mic.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You just have to pay attention. Have to pay attention.
What slays me is how men and women have sacrificed their families, raising their children, knowing the pets in the family, anything, so they could be on the road to make people laugh. Before they got famous, they sacrificed so much.
Yes, they did. And nowadays, just I don't think transportation has made things easier. You could be anywhere in just no time.
Yes.
And
it's fun seeing a lot of famous people doing comedy from their home, like Jimmy Fallon and Conan. They do what we're doing right now through the pandemic, like one person and another person, and in some ways the pandemic has been leveling the playing field temporarily.
I've been so impressed by the comics that have adapted this this time and still managed to be in front of the audiences, but they've been able to adapt to it. Now, me, I'm more of a follower. If someone asks me to do Zoom, I'll do Zoom, but I don't start my own shows and put together my own shows. I'm lazy. Let somebody else do it. Yes.
Yes, yes. Well, you have to do what you know you're good at, you know.
Or you
And
hope,
like,
or you've told
yes,
yourself you're good at. So,
yeah, yeah. I've tried a lot of things and I don't try to put on shows. And when I was doing these interviews, at first I was doing 5 and 10 a day, Anita. And,
oh, you
and
were.
then I
Oh my
And then I
God.
got to 500 interviews and I said, what am I doing this for at this pace? Am I crazy? So now I do one a day, maybe 2 or 3, but I enjoy you so much more because you're all I've got in my whole day and I'm not thinking about the next one.
That's great. Yeah, and you said you improved your equipment or something. How many interviews did you have to toss out?
Oh
Or
my goodness. Out of the 530, there's probably 250 that are on lousy equipment.
oh,
And I
okay.
didn't throw them out, but I want all those people to come back and let me re-interview them like you're letting me do.
Did you interview Rocky Osborne?
I
You
did.
said you said in his truck, but I didn't know
Yes.
the regular full interview.
Yes, we had a good interview time. He talked about everything.
Oh,
He's
great.
such an encourager.
Because he's an interesting person. Really is an
He
interesting person.
is.
I give Rocky a lot of credit too because he gave me so much stage time uh, right here in Murrieta, and it was like I said, he treated us fairly. A lot of people don't treat the comics well, and you know, you hear about people that won't pay the comics, and um,
Give
so
him bouncing checks.
yeah. Well, I never got one of those, but I sure never got one
Good.
from Rocky. I mean, he treated us well. But let's
That's
see.
great.
And did you work with Mark Christopher Lawrence when we were doing
Yes.
the job? Was he in the class? That
Yes, and he was in the improv.
yes, I was going to mention
And
that.
Paul Ogata.
Oh my lord! Oh my lord! He was on a Family Feud within the last 3 weeks. He
Oh my
was.
God.
Oh yeah, it was so good. He was with Brad Garrett, uh, the guy from Everybody Loves Raymond, and it was wonderful to see him on. He is just brilliant, and in improv, you can't throw him in improv. He can do anything. I hadn't written his name down, and I wish I had have because I'm so glad you brought up his name.
Yes.
And
You
he
know,
is in it too.
Mark and Paul both let me interview them.
Oh, and see, I didn't see that. I didn't see. I bet that was hilarious. I bet Paul had you, Paul. I bet Paul had you stepping quickly. So
He's so special. He's so out of the box.
he really is, and I don't know why he isn't uh, more famous than he is. But I don't think it means all that. I don't think he's not that he's not ambitious. I just think he's doing what he likes to do, and everybody likes him. He's amazing. I give
He's a breath of fresh air. He's one of the, like you can watch 100 comedians and not see one like Paul Agata.
no, never. And the improv, some of the stuff he did in improv is just, I mean, completely off the wall and hilarious all by itself. But and what I get a kick out of, he's either third or fourth generation Japanese Hawaiian, and he doesn't speak Japanese, and I get such a kick out of it because he does all these accents, and you'd swear that of course he's going to be fluent in Japanese. He said, "No, I don't speak any Japanese," but you would His accent's fantastic. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I never get enough of watching other comedians. I wrote down all these names you told me. Monica Piper, of course we know Taylor Tomlinson,
Oh,
Karen
yes.
Rontowski.
Rontowski.
I
That's
got
what
to go watch.
it's a W. There's a W in there. Rontowski. So
Okay.
Rontowski. And yeah, there's just so much talent out there, and I feel so privileged. Oh, and I was going to mention the highlight of my career in a way was that Debbie Reynolds, for a short time, owned a casino in Las Vegas. And that's where she was. Debbie Reynolds was famous for her collection of costumes from old movies. And of course, with something like that, you've got a problem storing it. So she, uh, for a while, owned a casino in Las Vegas where she could display all the costumes, which had to be sold later on. But my daughters uh, wrote her that I was a comic and asked if I could appear on her stage for my 60th birthday. And so I did, and it was just the highlight of my career, just to appear with Debbie Reynolds. She was so beautiful. I mean, you just want to scratch her face because I mean, she was just so beautiful. And the nicest thing she said to me was, "I'm going to steal some of your lines." And I thought, "Oh, please do." But that was a big thrill to appear with Debbie Reynolds, and she was really nice, and I'd always liked her anyway.
Yes.
Especially when Eddie Fisher was unfaithful to her with Elizabeth Taylor. Dirty
Yeah, that's horrible.
guy. Nobody.
I love Debbie Reynolds. What an amazing memory she is in my mind.
Yes, yes, she was, and she could dance, she could sing, she could do it all. She was a good actress. But that was probably the one thing I would point to and say, I'm so glad I got to meet her and be on stage with her. And
That sent chills in my body when you said that for your 60th birthday to appear with her. It sent chills through my body.
well, it certainly did mine. And of course, if my daughters do get things done, and this might have been just my older daughter, I'm not sure, but that really was exciting for me. They I'm proud of them. My daughters are funny and witty too. It just they they say some pretty funny things sometimes. Let's see.
Yeah, I should probably let you go.
I should let you go. You probably wanted to go 10 minutes ago. But
do you have a show coming up that people can watch?
Tomorrow night, it won't be, it's an actual live show here in Temecula at the Shamrock. It's an Irish pub down in Temecula. And I don't know if you've ever worked for Johnny Herrera. You have?
He hosted at Aces, and I came out to Shamrock and watched Taylor Tomlinson one time.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's it. It all blends together. Anyway, Johnny Herrera is the host, and John, I can't pronounce it. 17, I can't pronounce it. Oh golly, but he's really nice, a nice person and a very funny comic. So he's the headliner and I'm the feature, and then Johnny runs the show, and it's tomorrow night at the Shamrock at 8. But it's strictly live. I mean, we will practice social distancing and all the required things to keep me from catching the plague and dying. Because
yes. And so that's in Murrieta, right? Like East Murrieta?
And I said Temecula, and you're absolutely right, Linda. It's the last street in Murrieta. It's down in the Albertsons. If anybody's watching, it's in the Albertsons shopping center. But they have to have reservations because you can't have as many people with the plague. You have as many people, so they have to take reservations. Anyway, it's online. But thank you for asking, because I'm excited. That's the first live show I've done in a while.
I can't wait for you to report back on Facebook how it went.
Oh, I will. Well, I will.
Break a leg.
If I do, yeah, it's at my age, it's break a hip. You know that. Oh, thank you, Linda. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Anita. I love you lots.
I love you too. I love everybody. I love my comics.
Love them. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.